Lesson 28, the President and the Vice President. The seal of the President of the United States. E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution states, the executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. He shall hold his office during the term of 4 years, and, together with the Vice President, chosen for the same term. Qualifications for President and Vice President: at least 35 years of age, a native-born citizen. Again, take note, a naturalized American citizen cannot serve as president or vice president. And 3, a resident of the country for at least 14 years. These same qualifications hold true for the vice president too. Historic trends: all have been white males except for the 44th president, President Obama. All but one were Protestant Christian. Most have had a college education. Many were lawyers. And most came from states with large populations. Recent trends: a Catholic president, John F. Kennedy; a female vice presidential candidate, Geraldine Ferraro and Sarah Palin; a major African American candidate, Jesse Jackson, Barack Obama; a Jewish candidate for vice president, Joseph Lieberman; an African American president, Barack Obama. John Kennedy was our first Catholic president, elected in 1960, the 35th President of the United States, sworn into office in 1961. During his election campaign, the issue of his Catholicism arose. He had to address that part of his biography, that he was a Roman Catholic, not a Protestant. It was an issue in the 1960 election campaign. First Catholic president, John F. Kennedy. You may not know that Geraldine Ferraro, a congresswoman from New York, was the first female on a national ticket. She was the vice presidential nominee in 1984 on the ticket with Walter Mondale. It was a historic choice at the time to have a woman on a national ticket. That ticket of Mondale Ferraro was defeated decisively in 1984. They lost all but one state. 49 states were won by Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, who were seeking re-election at the time. Ferraro, first female on a national ticket. Jesse Jackson was the first major African-American presidential candidate in 1988. He was running to secure the Democrat nomination for president. He won several states in the primaries, but eventually lost his nomination bid to the governor of Massachusetts, Michael Dukakis. Jesse Jackson was a major civil rights leader, was an aide to the late Martin Luther King, had a lot of support, but really was the first major African-American presidential candidate, 1988, Jesse Jackson. Joseph Lieberman, senator, was the first major candidate on a national ticket with Al Gore in 2000. The ticket of Gore-Lieberman was defeated by Bush Cheney in the 2000 election, a very controversial election, which we will study in a later lesson. Joseph Lieberman, first major Jewish candidate. There's Sarah Palin, put on the ticket in 2008 by John McCain, the Republican nominee for president. Sarah Palin was the governor of Alaska. She was the second female on a national ticket, this time a Republican. They lost. Palin lost in 2008 to Obama Biden. Hillary Clinton was the first serious female presidential candidate in 2008. She was the former First Lady of Arkansas, the former First Lady of the United States, and the current senator from New York when she ran in 2008 to try to secure the Democrat nomination. Her chief rival was Barack Obama in a very hotly contested primary. And Obama, of course, won the Democrat nomination. Clinton then became Obama's Secretary of State. And there is Barack Obama, the first African-American president, the 44th president of the United States, elected in both 2008, re-elected in 2012. And you can see what being president of the United States does to you. It ages you. Look at that, 8 years. Hillary Clinton was the first presidential nominee of a major political party. In 2016, she secured the Democrat nomination for president, and she lost in a very hotly contested and very contentious and divided election campaign against Donald J. Trump. And there is Donald J. Trump, first, the 45th president of the United States, the first president with no prior government or military experience to serve as president. Electing a president. Elections take place every 4 even-numbered years. 4 even-numbered years. So we will take a look at the most recent election campaigns. We have another one coming up in 2020. We just had one in 2016. We know that the Electoral College is the process through which we choose our presidents. It's an indirect method of electing our presidents. When voters mark their ballots for a candidate, they are actually selecting their state's electors. The electors are pledged to vote for the chosen candidate. We will talk much more about this method when we get to our lesson on elections. The electoral votes, though, equals a state's number of representatives in Congress. States with larger populations have more electoral votes. Candidates try to focus their campaign on the battleground, or what we call the swing states, that can go for one candidate or one party from one election to the next. The total number of electoral votes is 538. 538. This map is a nice map that shows the electoral gains after the 2010 census due to the reapportionment of Congress. We know every 10 years we have a census, and then following that census is a reapportionment of the House of Representatives, which then affects the Electoral College. In this particular graphic, the red color represents states that lost seats due to reapportionment. The gray and black colors represent states that gained states. in the recent reapportionment. So just like in the reapportionment of the House of Representatives, the North, Northeast, the industrial Midwest have been losing electoral votes, whereas the South and the West have been gaining electoral votes. Notice how Florida and Texas both gained 2 or more electoral votes due to reapportionment. New York and Ohio both lost 2. There are 538 total electoral votes. Let's take a look at North Carolina, for example. North Carolina has 13 House members and 2 senators. Therefore, they have a total of 15 electoral votes. 15 electoral votes. California has 53 House members, 2 senators, 55 electoral votes. Texas has 36 House members, 2 senators, for 38 electoral votes. So again, the number of electoral votes per state equals the number of your congressional representation. The House members plus the 2 senators. States like Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, they only have 3 electoral votes because they only have 1 House member and 2 senators. Vermont is another state that only has 3 electoral votes, 2 House members, 1 senator. To win a majority of the electoral votes, you have to get to 270. We take the number 538 divided by 2, that equals 269. To win the Electoral College, you must have a simple majority of electoral votes. So 269 plus 1 equals 270. 270 to win. 270 to win. Taking a look at the most recent electoral results, 2004, this was George W. Bush's re-election campaign. Red usually represents the Republican Party, whereas blue represents the Democrat Party. And you can see the strength of the Democrats were in the North, Northeast, industrial Midwest, as well as the West Coast. Everywhere else in the country, George W. Bush won those states. George W. Bush was running against John Kerry. John Kerry was a senator from Massachusetts at the time. He was the Democrat nominee. And it actually was a close electoral vote margin. Although the picture looks like a landslide or total victory, it was not at all. 2008, Barack Obama is running against John McCain. And you can see that the Democrat candidate Barack Obama won many states that George W. Bush had won 4 years earlier. If you go back to the previous slide and take a look, that's 2004. And then 2008. Notice many more blue states. So Barack Obama in 2008, when he was first elected, had a pretty big electoral margin for victory. He had 370 electoral votes. And John McCain, the Republican nominee, had 164. That's a really, really wide margin of victory, 370 to 164. Remember, 270 is needed to win. So Barack Obama received more than 100 votes needed to win when he ran for election for the first time in 2008. We'll stop here. In our next lesson, 29, we'll continue with the president and the vice president.